Let me give it a share.
I'm going to share it too.
All right, perfect. All right, we've already got some people hopping on, so thanks everyone for joining us late on a Sunday night here, all of 3 hours before the most exciting month of the year, John.
It's almost here. It is almost here. Happy Sunday night, everybody. We're just hours away from the month of March. I'm ready. You're ready. Husky Nation's ready. Somebody get out some hot sauce and let's have some fun in this thing tonight. Let's have some fun in here. I am ready to go.
It is Big East After Dark, so this is where we go crazy. We get everything. I'm excited for this one, John. I know we've had you on a couple times throughout the year, and now we're finally getting to that point where the season's winding down, and it's been an exciting time for UConn Nation the past few weeks with the return of James Bouknight and things looking up. So excited to have you on tonight.
Well, it's great to be here with you, and I appreciate Colonel Calhoun, who leads us through the war day in and day out. Is UConn an Elite Eight or a Final Four team? That's amazing. I'll tell you what here. It has been exciting for the Huskies. They are clearly a different team with James Bouknight as part of the equation. He is a lottery pick in my mind, Jared. His impact on the game, it's not even fully known if you just looked at the numbers. You know, he really is such a dynamic player. And I think, you know, people have asked me, like, what do you think when you think about Napier and Kemba? I actually think that his game's even more well-rounded than Napier. I think he's the best UConn guard since Kemba, in my humble opinion. But I think for this UConn team, as equally important as Bouknight's impact is the way that R.J. Cole has come on here in the last couple of weeks. R.J. Cole is cooking. He's making plays for others. He's not turning the basketball over. He's a high-level scorer. UConn has a 1-2 punch that gives me those Napier Boatwright type of thoughts. When the Huskies have that going, they defend as well as anybody. They rebound as well as anybody. They're going to be one scary 10 seed potentially that you do not want to see on your bracket.
So John, I think we saw today firsthand some of the craziness of the Big East. Villanova going into Hinkle, losing there. You know, what are your thoughts on that? And it seems like UConn's kind of in a prime spot right now. They're starting to click to make that run at MSG coming up.
Yeah, so let's take a look at Villanova's loss here today. That's as uncharacteristic of a performance by the Wildcats as you're going to see. Hinkle Fieldhouse is where teams typically go to die. Not for Connecticut. They went there without James Bouknight and won. That was a great win for them. And I actually think it's a good thing UConn got Butler when they did, because, Jared, Butler is a sneaky team at home. You know, they're a totally different team inside Hinkle Fieldhouse. It's night and day for them when you would compare it to what they do on the road. And today, you know, Chuck Harris comes out, scores the ball really well. But what I look at is Bryce Enzi and Bryce Golden combining for 25 points in this game. That shows you Villanova's flaw. And Villanova's flaw is they don't have that postman inside that can stop people if you are committed to the interior. And I thought that got exposed in this game. And Villanova, without the three-point shot, their system is broken. And today they had a very poor day from beyond the arc. Their worst in over 20 years. 2 for 27 is not going to happen. Luke Trill Swanson says, care to comment on how Hinkle is smaller than most high school gyms? Well, no. Hinkle Fieldhouse seats about 10,000. It's actually cavernous if you walk inside it. It's a really good win for Butler. What we did see is Villanova and Creighton go down this weekend. Some of their flaws get exposed a little bit. I think that Creighton's still in really good shape. I am getting more and more concerned about Villanova, but I'm going to trust in Jay Wright here and trust in who they are and trust them at home. I still think the Cats are going to get back at Creighton. They're going to come out focused. They're going to play their game. You see, Jared, Villanova's not great defensively. So what do you have to do if you're not great? You got to try to limit possessions a little bit more. Look for them to slow things down and try to get back to those high percentage shots. Remember, UConn played them real tough at the Pavilion. Nova was just hitting some really difficult three-pointers.
And I think one thing you mentioned there about slowing things down is I think when you saw that game turn a little bit in Villanova's favor when UConn was playing them in that second half, Jay Wright made that adjustment. Things started to slow down, certainly, and that's where Villanova kind of took over a bit down the stretch there. And ready to head towards the Big East tournament. I know everyone on here is excited about the chances of UConn making a run here. Take us through your thoughts heading into MSG, and then let's say take out those top 5 teams there. Who from that bottom half? Because this is UConn's first time being back in this Big East here, going into the Big East tournament. Who from that bottom tier do you think could make a run come in a couple weeks?
It's a great question, and the answer is Providence, because they were picked to finish third in this league and have it in them to beat some of the top teams in this conference. They own a win over Connecticut. They own a win over, now albeit without book night, but they own a win over Xavier in commanding fashion, Jared. Xavier just beat Creighton, and they did so in pretty commanding fashion. Providence, they beat down that Xavier team last week. David Duke is such a high-level player. At any given moment, he can go off for 25 in a game. And if the Friars are getting enough guard play, that being Jared Bynum, Allen Breed, in the front court, this team, they have not gotten any play from the power forward spot. Noah Hortler gave them something against Xavier that I saw. Providence and St. John's. St. John's is the other candidate. Here's why. The Red Storm are relentless defensively. Posh Alexander has changed the way they play. He is the Big East Freshman of the Year in my book, and I hope everybody's books. If you've seen this kid play, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
And Penny's a bucket. So St. John's has the combination in New York City. I know there aren't fans. I know that the building's not full, but I like the Red Storm as well.
I want to get your thoughts going into this Wednesday's game for UConn against Seton Hall. This is a big game for both teams here. UConn continuing to show what it could do with James Bouknight back in the lineup. Seton Hall really desperate for a win here. So you're getting two teams that know the importance of Wednesday's game. What are you expecting out of that game on Wednesday night?
Great question. I expect Seton Hall with a week to prepare. Kevin Willard's going to have his team sharp. And he's going to give James Bouknight different defensive looks. Some Miles Cale. I think you'll see some Jared Roden. I think you'll even see Shavar Reynolds pop in for a possession on him because Reynolds has been kind of a chippy guy. One thing about Willard, Jared, is he's been a really good coach when it comes to facing teams that have a star. Mm-hmm. Marcus Howard had trouble actually balancing how to impact the game for his teammates and then just scoring. Last year at Marquette, Seton Hall literally went all around Howard, all around his supporting cast and said, they're not getting the ball. You're going to have to shoot it. He had like 35. The rest of the team had to combine like 26. It just wasn't enough. Yeah. So I expect Seton Hall to put together their best effort. If the Pirates win this game, which they could, the pick is going to be UConn. UConn should probably be favored in this game, and the pick from people going in is going to be UConn. But I will say this. If you're a UConn fan, do not freak out if you lose this game. Seton Hall has shown us that they could be really good. We haven't seen it in weeks, though. They have to win. Seton Hall has to win this game on Wednesday. If they don't, I don't see them making the tournament. So if you're a UConn fan, I know that you're also desperate, but you're not as desperate as Seton Hall. The Pirates defensively have actually been much better. It's their offense that has been bad. But they broke 80 against UConn in that first meeting with the Huskies and Stores. Now, James Bouknight has a scoring punch, but the defense for UConn, it's great no matter who's on the floor. At least it's looked that way. So I expect Seton Hall to come out here guns a-blazing. I think it's going to be nip and tuck. I could see either team winning this game. I know that people don't want to hear me say that, but I think this is going to be extremely tight down to the wire. It might be whoever has the ball last, and it might be a Bouknight game winner. If not, it might be a Roden or Cale type shot that makes the difference.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that game. I think it's going to be an all-out battle. We saw what UConn did to Providence the second time they played them after losing to them. So it's going to be going to be interested to see what this looks like on kind of the revenge tour with James Bouknight back in the lineup there. I know we talked about how big of a game that is for Seton Hall and where it ranks for UConn in terms of their standings and what their outlook looks like heading into March. How many teams from the Big East are you seeing at this point making the tournament?
Well, I think Villanova and Creighton obviously firmly in. I think that UConn has gone from being a team that in my book is in that last 4 in, first 4 out, and I would have the Huskies in the field around the 10 line right now. I don't think there's any question that they are a tournament team. Xavier really helped their cause. Xavier really, really helped their cause. They now own 2 high-level quad 1 wins over Oklahoma and Creighton. If the Musketeers go 2-1 in their next 3, meaning they just split on the road and win a Big East quarterfinal, I cannot see them missing the tournament. Their record shows it. Yeah, it's a limited sample size, but Jared, they've shown us who they can be, and that win over Creighton is huge. Seton Hall's on the thread. They need to win Wednesday. I think that 4 teams are going to be in. You might get 5. I think that's a bit of a long shot.
I like it. It's going to definitely be a fun last week of regular season play. And then as we head into Big East tournament, it's going to be crazy and a lot of fun for everyone. Again, this is Big East After Dark. So throw your questions. We're getting crazy in here. So I like this question actually that just came in Fanta. I'm curious to get your opinion. What's the highest seed that UConn can get if they win out, including the Big East tournament?
Well, that's the irony here. It's probably an 8 seed. I mean, maybe it's a 7 seed, but I don't think so. 8 would be the highest. You don't really want an 8 or a 9 because then you might have to Michigan. So that's why, if you almost want the 10 or the 11, and you might be one scary 10 or 11. The committee has shown us, Jared, I will say this. The committee has showed us that we value the last 2 weeks of the season a lot more than others do. And I disagree with Big Slick. 5 or 6, no shot. There is no way UConn is going to be 5 or 6 in the NCAA tournament. No team in the last 2 weeks of the season is going from the 10 or 11 line up to the 5 or 6 line, nor alone in a Big East conference this year that frankly has been a bit weaker than other years. You're not getting a 5 or a 6 seed. I was just asked, is Fanta a UConn fan? I am not a UConn fan. I cover the Huskies. I cover the Big East Conference. People often say thank you for what you do. I'm just doing my job, and I see a UConn team that if they were not tournament ready, I would tell you that they're not a tournament team. But if you are watching UConn, and if you don't have them in the field, you are committing a crime and you are blind because this team is tournament ready. Jim asked, can DePaul win out? And the answer is no.
And I think that's an interesting question there. He obviously got UConn ties with Dave Lato there. Is the seat hot at DePaul right now?
There's pressure. Here's the thing. Here's what can be said. They brought in a new athletic director, Dwayne Peavy. And when you bring in a new athletic director, he's going to look at what's happening inside the building and determine what he thinks of a situation. I don't have any background on the situation, but there's no mistaking that DePaul once again is in the bottom of the Big East and that Dwayne Peavy wants them to win. He's going to do whatever is best for them to start to turn this program around, and we'll see what he does here this offseason. Of course, there's pressure on Dave Lato and this coaching staff to make something happen. I mean, that's just how it is. It's how it is in this sport. We'll see what the offseason holds.
In terms of another team that's been towards the bottom part of the Big East this year, and I think one that was surprising to me coming back to the Big East was Georgetown, and they were a team I definitely expected to be a bit more on the rise. What are your thoughts on the way they've kind of turned things around a bit the last few weeks and have turned some of those losses into wins? What are your thoughts on the job Patrick Ewing's done at Georgetown this year and then look into the future?
Yeah, and by the way, for James Bouknight, Big East Player of the Year, I don't see it. He hasn't played enough games. I think he's the best player in the conference, but I don't think the coaches will vote for him for Player of the Year. Kind of like they voted for him on the preseason second team, and that was pretty ridiculous. Okay, to your question on Georgetown, this was a team that was projected to be low. A team that was projected to not have a good season. I think they've actually exceeded my expectations over the last month. They went to Creighton and won. They beat Providence. They beat Seton Hall. They thwarted Butler. So the Hoyas, Patrick Ewing can coach. He is not like other former players who've gone back to a school and have had trouble. Like, the results haven't shown, but this guy can coach and he cares about turning this thing around, Jared. They need their recruiting class next year that comes in, between Muhammad and Ryan Mutombo. They need that recruiting class to deliver. I mean, that is an absolute must. It's an absolute must. That's the recruiting class that really the Hoyas need to turn this thing around. I think Georgetown is right where I think that in the recruiting realm, they're where they need to be. They've got to be able to retain players. You need roster continuity to thrive in this sport. So we'll see. The Hoyas, I'm not surprised by them being, lower in the Big East this season. I thought this would be a rebuilding year. I give Javon Blair credit for what he's done as a senior. And I think that this Georgetown team, is a team that has some young talent. Like Dante Harris is one of them. Mm-hmm. They've got a recruiting class coming in next year that can get them going. I liked the upside of the Hoyas. I think they're 2 years away from being a legit NCAA tournament conversation team. But do not, people are all, if you're against Ewing, I'm telling you, you got to give this another chance or two. There's some things that have happened that are totally out of his control. It's coming. I think it's coming for Georgetown like it was coming for UConn.
Mm-hmm. I know someone brought up Big East Player of the Year and James Bouknight there, and just probably not having enough games right there. At a minimum, you think he's at least all first-team Big East, right? No questions there?
James Bouknight has to be all Big East first team. There's
not getting left off like he did in the preseason there.
No. Can we play one-on-one? Someone asked. Line opens with me as a slight favorite. I think I'd win.
I like myself as the underdog there. If Bouknight's not Player of the Year, who do you have as your Big East Player of the Year? And then talking on the Coach of the Year front too, as we're kind of wrapping things up, who do you have on that front
for Player of the Year?
Yeah, and Coach of the Year.
Okay, so Coach of the Year, if Creighton wins out this week, I'd give Coach of the Year to Greg McDermott. That would be an outright Big East championship. They have lived up to their expectations, perhaps even exceeded them, by winning the title. I would consider Greg McDermott as my Coach of the Year in the Big East. If I didn't vote for Greg, I would consider, if they beat Providence and Seton Hall this week, they were picked 9th. They were supposed to be a bottom feeder in this league. St. John's with double-digit conference wins, Jared, would have to be considered. If you finish with more wins, than where you were selected, 9th in your league, you should probably be the Coach of the Year in your conference. Watch out for Mike Anderson as another candidate here. I think that Dan Hurley and UConn have done about, what we thought they would do. But I think that Dan's had to navigate through a really challenging year with Bouknight hurt. We could see him emerge here in the final week. Right now, I'd probably say McDermott, especially if they beat Villanova on Wednesday.
All right, I'm going to try here. It looks like No Escalators might be joining us here. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. What's going on, No Escalators?
Oh, it is great to be here. John Fanta, Prince of the Big East. It is great to hear your voice again, to see you back streaming with us. I love to see you thrive out there calling the G League games, but you just don't have the free time anymore to come mess around with us on Twitter. And I've missed you, John. I'm so happy to have you back.
Well, thank you, No Escalators. And I can promise you all, I will tell you that the G League package, to everyone's perhaps delight on a Big East side, the package ends on Thursday. And then I will be driving right to Mohegan Sun to watch Paige Beckers and the Husky women. I have their quarterfinal game for Fox next Saturday. I'm looking forward to calling that game. But then I will be in a New York City hotel quarantine next Monday and Tuesday, basically in a hotel room locked down, waiting for the Big East men's tournament to start. So I will most definitely do a live Q&A with all of you. And I will be with you throughout the March journey, however long it goes, however it goes. I'm all in with my college basketball and Big East coverage. So I'm ready here for UConn and the whole March Husky experience.
Well, we are happy to have you back. It is obvious there are big things ahead for John Fanta, and we love to see you succeed. But the UConn Nation is behind you. But John, I have two questions for you.
Okay.
And number one, it's a question I've been asking you all year. You've ducked it all year. I stopped asking it for a little while because James Bouknight was hurt. But John, if there were, say, 3 best teams in the Big East, what do you think the 3 best teams in the Big East would be?
Right now, without a question, I would go ahead with Creighton, Villanova, and UConn. Connecticut is the team that is, of the 3 right now, they're the team that's scariest because they are relentless defensively and relentless on the glass, and they have the best player in this league in James Bouknight. And so, I'll tell you guys in full transparency, I got a text message Wednesday night from a writer, a colleague of ours, who said to me, my buddy just texted me and says you're an idiot for thinking UConn can make noise in March. And I texted him back and I said, I could care less what that guy thinks because I don't really care what he thinks. I know what I've seen. We all know what we've seen. And we've all seen that James Bouknight could put on a Kemba Walker-like week at Madison Square Garden, and that UConn defends and rebounds, and that carries over. R.J. Cole is the perfect guy in that 1-2 punch, and the Huskies could be hoisting a Big East championship trophy at Madison Square Garden. They could. They could. I don't pick the Big East tournament. I'm a host throughout the tournament and have to talk to coaches and players all throughout the week. I don't need that. No, I don't need that. But the Huskies are the dark horse of the Big East. They are the 3rd best team in this league right now. And on their best day, and if they put together their best week at the Garden, they could be a champion.
Okay, then that gets ahead of my second question. I won't put you on the spot, John Fanta, and say, I need you to pick a Big East tournament winner for me. But if you weren't a host, and if UConn was going to win the Big East tournament, I would say you should pull on your right earlobe just to let the people know that you're with them. But thank you, John. We love to have you. We love to have you promoting the Big East. Can't wait for you to be back on our beat full time.
I like East Carolina and the American.
It's a lovely place this time of year. As we're on Big East After Dark, John, so what's it like when you got a quarantine in New York? Is it like a hard one? You locked in that room for 2 days leading up to the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, we're not, I'll tell you, yeah, I mean, I plan to be isolated and, this is part of the process of I will have on-site coverage at Madison Square Garden. There won't be many that do. I'm very privileged and honored to be doing my role once again as the host of Big East Shoot-Around, which, by the way, I'll give out the shameless plug. We will be on to start each day on Twitter. We will be on to end each day with highlights. And how about this for you UConn fans who want it? We are the exclusive home live on Twitter at Big East MBB. I'm at John_fans. I'll share it. We will have every post-game press conference, every winner, every loser, all that reaction. We bring that to you. Because obviously Fox is covering the games, and so they're going from game to game. Mm-hmm. We'll bring that. We'll have one-on-ones with you from the tunnel at the Garden. So in preparation for that, to be able to have that kind of access, Jared, I will be in quarantine and we'll be isolating. We'll be staying safe. I have an at-home test that I have to give myself. I don't know how that's going to go because I'm not good with anything other than Big East basketball. So no Soho with Lavin. Although if he were in New York, he would try to get me to go out with him, but that's not going to happen here. I'm staying in my room. We will do a live Q&A, I'm sure. But yeah, Jared, to give you full context, I mean, the plan is for me to start the NCAA tournament. I'll be home here in New Jersey. Typically, I'm with a couple of teams on assignment. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you right now, the NCAA tournament, the amount of restrictions in person are so high that you could do just as much, if not more, virtually on Zoom than you can get, anywhere else. So it really is. It's a crazy year, crazy time. I'm really lucky, fingers crossed, knock on wood, to be covering the Big East tournament in person this year.
John, we're getting a lot of questions here about Big East refs. And that's one thing I think is a surprise to UConn fans, because I think that they think back to the old Big East days, when guys were flipping each other over and it was play on. DeJuan Blair was flipping Hashim to beat over, and it was, just keep playing it. What are your thoughts? Is it just the way the game has changed and the way things are called now, just across the board? Is that just how the Big East has adjusted to things now?
Yeah, I mean, we still have seen, while UConn was in the American, if you were still watching the Big East tournament, we saw Patrick Ewing Jr. and Chris Mullen get into it one year recently. Yep. We saw Seton Hall Marquette have a major, melee, like chaos, no physical stuff, but tons of drama a couple years ago. You're still going to see that Big East tournament week. The games are not called the same way anymore. They're not called the same way. The game has changed. Here's what I want to say to everybody watching this. I try to convey this to people all the time, okay? When you go blame this league for its officiating, these officials are doing the Final Four. They're doing the national championship games. The Big East invests as much money, if not more, with a partnership with the Atlantic Coast Conference, who has Duke, Carolina, Virginia, Louisville, and the Atlantic 10. That's a three-way partnership of shared officials. My point is, I think sometimes we look at the official and we then think about the rule book. We don't think about that enough. And that's a big problem that I have with officiating in basketball in general in 2021. These officials are trying to get paid more money and make it to the next round of the NCAA tournament. So they are following that book. And basketball is not always a by-the-book game. Mm-hmm. If it were a by-the-book game, then Marquette would never beat North Carolina.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is, it's not a by-the-book game. It's not all by the book. But that's these officials, when you go to criticize the league, you could say something's a bad call. But understand the fact that these officials, Jared, do get evaluated, that if they have a bad game, there will be repercussions. Watch other leagues. Watch other leagues. Watch the Pac-12. I'm not trying to point them out single-handed, but I've watched the games late at night. And I'm not trying to make this a war at all, but I'm just saying, guys, the Big East wants to use the best officials. And I have gotten the fortunate opportunity to be around people who are in charge of these types of things, and I know the standards that they hold themselves and the officials too. So when you disagree with something, know that they don't just gloss it over and shut their laptop. They try to do part to make sure that the officiating is getting preserved. Are there bad calls? Of course. There have been bad calls.
There's always going to be, yeah.
Always going to be. The games are called differently now across the sport. Do we love that? Well, no. But, you watch other leagues this week. Give a little look. You'll see what I mean. I've seen it in other leagues. But I think on the flip side, and UConn fans have expressed this to me, when you're in a league that gets a lot of attention and gets Fox broadcast exposures, the officiating gets, it gets amplified. Everybody's watching closely.
Yep. I don't know. We could depart from the refs a bit. I know you mentioned earlier about some of the women's coverage you're doing. How excited are you to see Paige in person in a couple weeks?
I'm really excited. We're going to have her Saturday on FS1 at noon Eastern time. The Huskies are the number 1 seed in the Big East tournament. Their opponent is to be determined. But we will have UConn men are also playing Saturday at noon. I believe it's a CBS game against Georgetown.
Georgetown, yeah.
We'll go double screen. So we'll have that at noon. I'll be with Kim Adams all day long. We have a 12-hour marathon for Mohegan Sun. I can't wait. If you're into women's basketball at all, or if you're not, Paige is unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely.
And she's a freshman. I cannot believe what I've watched from her in just year 1. She is going to have a national championship ring, and I put a parentheses with an S.
Yep.
Back up. And this UConn team, Olivia Nelson-Ododa, Aaliyah Edwards, what she's been able to provide. Kristen Williams is right in the fold. They're balanced, Jared. They're really good, and it's why they're the top overall seed in the NCAA tournament selection committee's projection. And it's going to be really cool to see them on ABC, I think, during the NCAA tournament with games being shown on ABC this March. So I'm really excited to have the women's tournament. I'll have the 4 quarterfinals. Lisa Byington and Sarah Kustak will take the wheel for the semis and the title game like we've done in the past. I'll drive from Mohegan on Sunday back here to New Jersey and get my suit bag packed and everything ready to go for our men's tournament week.
Very cool. I like this question. This is a perfect Big East After Dark. Big East coach would be the scariest father-in-law. I like that one. It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. I'm thinking right now here.
I feel like just on size alone, I might have to go Patrick Ewing.
So he would be, but I think he's a big teddy bear at the end of the day, and I think he'd be a really nice, I think he'd be scary at first, but then I think things would settle down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. I kind of get I'm trying to think here as I go through the dads. I kind of get Robert De Niro Meet the Parents vibes from Steve Wojciechowski. Like, you're in my circle, and you're going to stay in my circle, and you better follow what I say. That would be one that I would say. I know Coach Willard, and I know how he is, and I know that he would probably not be the easiest father-in-law. But again, you could drink a whole bottle, if not 2 bottles of wine with the guy and have a great night with him. I know Ewing though, like Pat really is he's a good guy, but KW, Coach Willard is he's got his rules. Look, he works for Rick Pitino. He knows he runs a tight ship. It's why he wins. He's a winner.
Some good stories too from that, at least over those bottles of wine there.
I have some good ones. I got some good ones for another time.
That'll be for our next edition of Big East After Dark. We'll start that one a little later, right? We might have to.
For sure. For sure.
I've got to ask you, since you've been doing some G League stuff too, you've seen some UConn players. You got Jalen Adams there, Amita Brima. How many of their games have you gotten to do, and thoughts on them?
Brima, I did one game. I thought he was really impressive, Jared. He did everything, did all the little things. He rebounded the basketball so well. He had like 12 boards in that game. I think he had 4 blocks. He had a jam. He was great. But I'll tell you what, Jalen Adams is a bucket. I mean, this is a guy that's averaging right around 17 a game. He's racking up big-time buckets. He could shoot the 3. He could score it. He could take you off the dribble. I love his motor. And, he was supposed to go to France, I think, or had a stint there, and now has come back to the States for a second stint with the Bayhawks, the Erie Bayhawks. And so he's in the Pelicans fold. The way he plays and his motor and his efforts, Jalen Adams is somebody that could get that call up to the NBA in the not-so-distant future.
Be great to see yet another Husky back in the league before we got James Bouknight jumping next year. So I think exciting times for UConn as they try to get back a little bit more in the NBA fold. Let's see what else we got here, John. What have we not talked about tonight?
Well, we haven't talked about this hypothetical. What would outside the Garden look like, Jared? Even in this pandemic year, if UConn won the Big East tournament this year?
Oh, it'd be chaos. Like, I don't know if you saw that clip last night of like all the Knicks fans that were there, like high-fiving and going nuts in the streets out there for making it to 500. Like, imagine that times like 100. You know, they'd already be packing the trains. I'm sure heading into MSG. It's tough this year. I already know UConn fans probably already flooded the Seton Hall applications for tickets for Wednesday's game. I guess as I see Russ commenting here that he would not be closed, so it might be a good thing. No fans this year.
We'll alert the authorities now. Russell Steinberg is on the loose in Midtown. He was last seen inside the Sbarro, naked.
That's what an Isaiah Whaley block will do to you.
Elite Eight versus Michigan State. Yeah, we'll shut down the city. You're not shutting down New York City. You might. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. Remember, I started covering the Big East in 2013-14. This is my first year covering UConn.
John, while I've got you, you know, I know you're as tuned into college basketball in general as anyone out there. If we gave you the option of Baylor, Michigan, Gonzaga, or the field, are you taking the field at all there? Or are you pretty high on those three?
Give me the field. Let's see somebody emerge.
That's
in the
fun.
tournament.
Yeah.
Give me the field too. Baylor just lost to Kansas. And Gonzaga has faced a minor league schedule over the last month and a half. You can't tell me that doesn't make a difference when they face a legitimate opponent again. It's to a disadvantage to them. Is Gonzaga capable of beating anybody? Of course. They showed us that in November and December. But that was November and December. That doesn't matter when you hit the floor in March. And for Michigan, they are very, very good. In fact, if you gave me those three teams, I probably would put Michigan as the best of the three to win the national title. But Jared Kotler, I will take the field. You could see a team catch fire over the span of 3 weeks and come out of nowhere. There's no real home court advantage. Let's stop acting like 10% capacity makes that big of a difference for one team over the other. You know, I know UConn fans would like to beg to differ at the NCAA tournament or whatever, but it still isn't the same as screaming fans in a packed arena. Mm-hmm. So I would take the field. Let's have fun with it. And I would go with the field if I were asked Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor, or the rest of the field. I think Baylor's very good and dominant defensively. I worry about who they are sometimes on the offensive end of the floor. Credit to Kansas and David McCormick. What an effort. Talk about Kemba in the Garden. 10-year anniversary, man. How cool is this? 10 years ago, Kemba Walker, party at Kemba's, and now UConn back where they belong, inside the world's most famous arena. I can't wait. I cannot wait for Thursday, March the 11th, when the Huskies hit the floor. I know that it won't be a full MSG, but you know what? You're going to feel the intensity. You're going to feel the vibes. And let's see if it is book night time.
And if UConn's in the 3 seed, you got those 9 p.m. game times. It's going to be a buzz there. It's going to be fun. And I like your pick of the field there, especially when UConn ends up somehow in that 8-9 game and knocks out Gonzaga to help you out there. We can already knock that down and put it on paper there.
The confidence of this fan base is something, and you really have ruffled the feathers of other fan bases.
Which fan base do you think we've pissed off the most?
You know who you've pissed off. Okay, you know who you've pissed off the most. You don't need me to tell you who you piss off.
We just go after everyone. We have fun with it, right?
Go after everyone. Who's the nicest fan base in the Big East?
Oh, I feel like you probably have to go with one of the Midwestern teams, right? Like they don't have that. They don't have the Northeast attitude that we've got.
I have never met a mean Butler fan.
Yeah,
I've never met a mean Butler fan. And you guys met the national championship game.
Yeah. No, I don't. No mean Butler fans that I've come across. So
there has been a Midwest fan base that has not been nice to me this season, but I'm not going to get into it.
Uh-oh. Who are we going after, John?
I'm not saying it. No. I'm not going there. You all can draw your conclusions however you'd like, but I will not tell you who it is. But yes, a Midwest fan base has been a little bit unkind.
John, I know you've been broadcasting some of these games in person this year.
Yes.
What's it like doing a game in a pretty much deserted arena?
It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's actually, no, it's not Xavier Big Slick. It stinks. It's awful. I want to see fans again. I love talking to people before the game. I love when we have conversations, before tip-off and talking about scenarios like we've talked about over the last hour. I miss the human interaction. I'm tired of staring at you through your screen and not being able to say, let's go grab a beer after the game. And, I never took fans for granted. If you know me and we've ever talked before a game, I love doing that. Some people sometimes come up to me and say, this must be a chore. No, it is not.
It's fun, right?
If I've ever encountered you at a game and I've started to run off, it's not because of you. It's probably because I have someone that's mad at me because I'm not where I need to be at the time. I love talking with the fans. I love talking with the followers. I miss that so much. You guys are all, everybody that's in here. When you say thank you for following. Thank you for your engagement, Jared. Jared, you know this, being a guy who's, around the UConn program. It is amazing what happens with the traffic around the program, and that's what I'm looking forward to, really having on the ground in-person coverage of the Huskies here, throughout the month of March. Should be a lot of fun. I've got a couple more G League games, so I won't be on hand at the Prudential Center Wednesday night, but watching closely for a big one between UConn and Seton Hall. And I'm really intrigued to see how UConn comes out in the game. If you remember, their offense looked kind of lost in that game. But here's the thing. It looked lost in general with Book Night. What was shocking about the UConn game against Seton Hall was that UConn allowed Seton Hall to score as easily as the Pirates were scoring. Seton Hall's offense hasn't been good in weeks. So what does that look like? Can UConn impose their will defensively on the Hall?
And if I recall, I think Seton Hall went off from 3 in that game as well, too, which I know is something that they tend not to do. So be interesting to see how this comes out on Wednesday night. Again, I as a UConn fan, have the visions of the Providence rematch that we saw this year, again, Seton Hall here, but it's definitely going to be an interesting one down Wednesday at 6:30. I like that start time. 6:30 is a nice time for game time. So
look, if you're on television and you're on national TV and you're not streaming, you take the start time.
Yeah, exactly.
You do. And if it's high at 9 o'clock, I know some people get mad at the 9:15. Alec wants to know, Butler love or no? Of course, Butler love. Yeah. Butler's going to be really dangerous in 2 years. I mean, and even next year, I think they'll be a good team. They don't even have Scooby Johnson and Jacoby Coles. They didn't have Aaron Thompson today, and he is their glue. And yet Chuck Harris steps up. Enzi he's dropped weight. He looks physically fit. He's all over the place. LaVall Jordan can coach, man. Butler got to number 5 in the country last year. Then they kind of spilled off, but they had Kamar Baldwin. He was giving me Book Night vibes. Butler is Jared, they are such a culture program. That's why they fit in the Big East. You can always count on them to be a tough out. And even though their metrics are bad this year, it's because they were young. And early on, after a couple COVID-19 pauses, they had no rhythm. Yeah. I wouldn't want to see them in the Big East tournament just because they're so hard to play. You might not lose to them in your first Big East tournament game, but it might take a lot out of you, and you might lose the next game because of it.
Where are we looking at Butler? I haven't had a chance to check the standings. What are we looking at?
Let's do this here. Let's
what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, here we go.
All right, they're 8 or 9 right now.
8 or 9. So they would face Georgetown.
Georgetown.
Hey, what? That would be a really interesting game because Georgetown's played well.
Yeah.
I think, I know UConn fans like to discredit Providence or dislike Providence, but man, Providence as a 7 seed in a conference tournament just spells, oh God, you're a 2 seed. Your first game is against Cooley. Like that's get interesting.
Yeah. Just looking, and I think even though UConn handled Marquette yesterday when they played. You saw what they did at North Carolina. They're not going to be a team that you're going to be thrilled to see in the matchup there either. And I think that's one thing that's exciting coming from the American. There were some teams you could kind of rest on to be nice there, but you don't have that at all here.
Hold on, somebody just said, "Well, you take a picture at NYC with the 11th UConn Big East championship." I don't take pictures with trophies. I didn't win the trophy. I have nothing to do with it. I just cover the teams. If UConn loses in the first game, they lose. I don't think they will. I mean, I'm a little bullish on them. If I think a team is flawed, I'm going to tell you right now. I mean, St. John's is young. They're a young team. They've shown us spurts, but they're a young team. Seton Hall has had a point guard problem. Bryce Aiken not being healthy, it's been problematic. UConn's offense at times is hard to watch. If Bouknight's on the floor, if Bouknight's not on the floor, he's got to be on the floor. But I just look at them in March. They have a formula. We always say, you better be able to rebound. Jared, one thing that happens in the tournament is these teams face teams that are bigger than them, and they don't know what to do. For UConn, it's not a problem.
No. Even looking at a guy like Tyrese Martin, who's just been a monster on the boards himself, you're getting rebounding, kind of 1 through 5 there. Even RJ Cole's been a decent rebounder for them. Bouknight, since coming back, has put together a couple double-doubles. I think in his first 3 games back, I think he had 2 double-doubles there, and he's had 3 his entire career at UConn. So he's come back aggressive, looking to show. While we're, I don't think we talked about the UConn freshmen earlier, but you've seen the rise of Sanogo down low. You've seen what Andre Jackson can do. What are your thoughts on some of these young players they have looking not only what they could do this year, but into the future there?
Really scary because Jackson hasn't been healthy and he still provided some real flashes.
Yeah.
But what I look at for UConn are 2 things. Okay, 2 things. Number 1, Adama Sanogo getting early touches in a game and how that impacts the game. Against Georgetown, Adama Sanogo established against a good Kudus Wahab that, hey, I'm going to set the tone of this game. And he did, Jared. He set the tone to the game. Adama Sanogo set the tone to the game. The other element with UConn, so Jackson and Sanogo, of course, I'm high on them. I like their upside. I think that Sanogo is the more – I don't mean to say it like this, but I just look at him as a traditional big, but also someone who can grow. I think the sky's the limit for this kid. Jackson, I think, could be really good too. I just don't have a great sample size. So
that's fair.
That being said, my favorite, in terms of the Huskies, my favorite moment in terms of, okay, what was that? Was the sequence at Xavier where a Cook comes into the game, hits a corner 3, comes up with another play, another finish. Like, a Cook is the wild card to UConn basketball because I think he does things that I don't see from players often.
Yeah. No, a Cook is such a great piece to have. It's just so much of a question mark of what he can do, given that he's coming off probably the toughest injury for a basketball player to come back from in that torn Achilles. And, from what, Dan Hurley has said, it just seems like he gets beat up a bit, and it's still been tough on him. I think you saw him for a few minutes against Marquette, nothing crazy, but that game against Xavier, he gave him new life in that game, and it was nice to see. When he's out there, he's one of those players who you could tell when he's having a good time. That he's got that big smile on his face. He's having fun out there. So if he can give him some time down the stretch here, I think that's a big part for this UConn team. Whatever you can get out of him, you take it.
Absolutely, you do. And you don't say, that like you need something from him. It's an added bonus.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
UConn does need. They do need Tyrese Martin and Tyler Polley to give them something. Something.
Yeah.
You can't give your team nothing. You need. How about Jalen Gaffney? Like he's kind of given some interesting doses of energy and of play. And I know that was the expectation, but like for UConn, at the end of the day, Cole and Bouknight, if they're both playing well, I keep saying it, like UConn defends and rebounds so well. And I really like the idea of Bouknight being that guy at the Garden in the Big East tournament and beyond. I mean, I just think he's that type of player. He's going to want to put his stamp on things. And maybe we'll be wrong. I mean, remember, Kemba Walker's week happened, Jared, off magical moments, off UConn having the last shot in the game. Things could change in this sport. The point is the Huskies have a dangerous formula for where they're at.
I agree with you 100%, John. And I think we're looking at what should be a fun couple weeks here. And I'll let you get going because I know you just came off doing a G League game before you hopped on with me tonight. So I really do appreciate the time. I think
I would talk to you till midnight. But I probably do. I probably need to grab a bite to eat and then put some notes together. 7 Eastern time, FS1 tomorrow night, Seton Hall and St. John's Women's from Queens.
All right, there we go. You're always up to something, John. No, you sleep in May, right?
Oh no, I don't sleep. I mean, you could fall asleep in May, but then you would miss some May or June news. The NBA draft combine's in May. I mean, come on. I got James Bouknight to cover. We don't sleep in May. Don't UConn fans want to see their man get called up to Brooklyn at the stage with a Husky hat? And I expect UConn fans to be at the Barclays Center.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, because they're letting 10% people in, so we could get a handful of us in there, right?
We're getting slowly but surely. We are getting back to normal, and I cannot wait till the 2022 Big East tournament when I can see the UConn faithful in full effect.
Oh, it's going to be crazy. It's all bottled up. It's going to just be waiting to explode there. And as Colonel Calhoun says, we've got baseball coming up too. So
yes, talking baseball, talking Tribe.
Get to go see. You going to be busy out there seeing your guy Lindor at Citi Field?
That's a sensitive topic with the Cleveland faithful, that's for sure. It's been a tough offseason for the Tribe. My thoughts on the recruiting class for UConn, I mean, it's what you would expect from being in the Big East. They've just elevated who they are. I like this class quite a bit. I think Dan Hurley's done a really, really good job of getting kids that fit their style. All those kids are having a good year. UConn, I said this when they first came back in the league. You've probably heard it from me before. It was only 7 years ago that they were on top of college basketball. Yeah. They still have the most resources. They still have the most. Like, UConn is going to be in a very, very good spot. They've got deep potential this season, but I think only going forward, they got the perfect guy as their head coach. Dan Hurley is the guy. You're not converting me into a Yankees fan. He threw beer all over me a couple years ago. That ended any chance you have.
We'll get you a Kluber jersey. Don't worry.
No. I am not wearing a Yankee jersey.
Well, maybe the Yankees will do UConn Day again out there. We'll get you the hat, the UConn Yankees hat. We'll get you one of those.
No. Is there a UConn Yankees Day?
Yeah, they've done them. They've done them a couple. The Mets have done them. Yeah.
All right. You know what I'll do? I'll tell you this. I will prompt because I actually like going to Yankee games. I'm not a Yankee fan, but I like going to games because it's New York. I love baseball, so I love watching both teams play. And for my New York friends, like I get behind them, and I'm all for that. But I'm not a Yankees fan, so I will. You have my word. You have my word. Like Francesa does his thing down the Jersey Shore, which I actually want to do that this summer. I'd like to do like a day at the shore for anybody who wants to come down the shore.
Fanta.
We'll take over Bar A. Yeah, something like that. UConn Day at Yankee Stadium. If the Huskies win the Big East tournament, I'll buy hot dogs for anyone who wants to come to whatever section. I'll spend the afternoon. We'll watch the Yankees play. And we'll be at UConn Yankees Day, and I'll buy a hot dog for everybody that comes.
There we go. All right, everyone. You heard it here.
I love RA. Colonel Calhoun said, "Get me." You don't have to get me there. I freaking love RA. You will see me there. I hang out at Bar A, and I love the Osprey. I love my Osprey, my DJs, my Bar A. If it ends in A, I'm there, and I'll be there this summer. I can't wait. I am a Jersey Shore guy. I kind of fly under the radar during the summer. Everyone's like, "Are you working right now?" Wait, hold on. This is what I do during the summer. Wait, hold on. When the summer hits, that's my favorite time of year because you could see me in Bar A and I have these on I have a little cap on, and I'm ready to go.
Oh, you're going to regret all these offers to UConn fans. We're going to be hitting you up at the shore at Yankee Stadium. No escaping us, John.
Yep. I love going down the shore. I'm a huge DJ Saturday. Belmar's awesome. The Osprey's my favorite spot. We'll do so. I'll have to line something up if fans want to come down to Osprey for a Saturday night. We can listen to some rap. We could listen to some of their live bands in the other room. I'll dance. We'll have a great time.
Oh, there we go. I think there's no other way we can end things tonight.
I have to get these sunglasses adjusted. They are broken. Do they look broken to you, or they look okay?
No, they look all right.
Okay. I got to get them adjusted. They're too loose.
Yeah, you're good from here. So you've got some time to get them ready in time for this summer.
Parker House basement too. Impossible place to get to, but that's another. I love these Jersey Shore references. This is a lot of fun. Jared, it's always fun being with you.
John, it was great. Thanks again. Big East After Dark. We had a lot of fun tonight. We got into everything. So John, good luck with all your coverage the rest of the way. Everyone will be following you and excited to see what we've got.
1 hour and 47 minutes away till March.
We've got it. We're going bigger and better after what we had to go through last year. It's coming.
It's almost here.
John, thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jared.
We'll talk later.
I'm going to go have some wings and put some Red's hot sauce on them.
There you go. That's what we like to hear. We'll see you later, John.